Hey, this is Ethan. I got some new stuff in the mail today. So, I have this Cobalt 57 density cube and a Cobalt 60 calibration disc, which is really, really cool. It's an NRC exempt amount, so it's totally legal to obtain and own and, generally play around with. I wouldn't recommend keeping it in your pocket, but it's fairly safe to have in your household. Very, very cool. I also got a Cesium 137 source, and we have our good old-fashioned everybody has one in their house button. So we're going to do a quick sample test real quick here. So for the Cesium 137, we can go ahead and take a look at its spectrum. And you'll notice you get this beautiful cesium spike, exactly where it's supposed to be. This unit's calibrated to cesium, so it's not a surprise that it picks it up well. Go ahead and reset here. Put her on the americium. And you'll notice it's picking up some of the elements beside it a little bit, but you get a nice clean spike at the very beginning of the spectrum here. This particular unit really only starts to pick up a good spectrum around 75, so that's where the spike ends up laying when you pull it up on a PC. I think it's just because it cuts off before it sees most of the energy. All the same, it's a pretty good indicator of what we're dealing with. The next one we're going to move over to is Cobalt. Cobalt's a lot harder to identify. You can see here a couple of spikes developing, but they're not very clean. I don't think this particular unit is really calibrated well for this high of energy. But if you leave it long enough, spikes do develop in the areas where you'd expect them to be. Overall, I give the RAdex Cesium a pretty good passing mark for entry-level spectrometer. It's not really designed to identify elements specifically. It's really more of a dosimeter, and dosimetry with this device is pretty bang on. So Cesium 137 has about half the energy of Cobalt 60, sorry. And so we see about 49 microsieverts. And when we pull up the Cobalt 60, just a little under 100. It actually goes up to about 110 if you get it put on here correctly. I gotta change my screen timeout. We'll just call it 97. But I mean, it's pretty much where you'd expect it to be. And then, if we go a step further and use the americium, not much. You definitely get something there. Might even be a little more than I'd expect. But once again, as I mentioned, it doesn't really read americium properly. It shifts it up a little bit. But overall, I'm pretty okay with this unit. I think it's doing a pretty good job of doing what it's supposed to do. I look forward to getting something a little more detailed with a higher resolution at some point, but those things come with money. And also progress. There's a couple products that are basically on Kickstart right now that I'm looking into getting that would be a lot more efficient at identifying elements than this one. We'll see. But hopefully more elemental videos about these in the future. I'd like to do some density tests on different materials and see how well the different rays get through them, how far we can detect them, stuff like that. It'd be pretty interesting. For the time being, I'm pretty satisfied just kind of messing around with these samples until I can find a better experiment to do with them. Thanks again for watching. I hope you found this informative.